Do you have one person in your life that just makes everything better? If you do, is that one person someone you can count on for anything, someone who will defend you for anything, and someone who will support you through all of your failures and shortcomings? Cindy, my aunt, prior to her impact on my life, served her country in the United States Air Force for over 20 years through multiple countries, eventually reaching the rank of Lieutenant Colonel. As you can see here, this is a picture of her in her uniform about 30 years ago now. Although I am in college and do not see her as often as I would like to, Cindy is one of the kindest, compassionate, and hardworking people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing. While Cindy's kindness is not her most obvious quality because of her shy nature, she makes a conscious effort every day to put a smile on her face and do something nice for someone else. For example, Cindy is beckoned every single day after an 8-to-5 job to be the caregiver and homemaker for several adults who live in her home. She never complains about having a rough day at work or her own problems. She often volunteers herself to be of service to all the people that surround her, and as long as they are polite to her. If you've never met Cindy, which most of you haven't, she's probably the person within a crowd you'd be drawn to introduce yourself to. I say this because she has a sweet and good-natured demeanor that makes you trust her effortlessly. As Cindy's mother always says, Cindy's the kind of person who would almost get taken advantage of because of her kind heart and need to be nice to everyone. From my personal experiences, I can tell you all that Cindy has made my life immeasurably better by being in it. Her impact on my life goes from shallow reasons like the fact that she makes amazing spaghetti or tater tots because I like food, all the way to the fact that I know I can trust her with anything and I never have to worry about being who I am with her. Cindy's very existence has given my brother a home to live in where he's spoiled and, more importantly, safe and cared for. She's mended countless arguments between me and my grandmother and within our family, and with her mediation skills and her empathetic nature, it makes her such a wonderful person. So now that I've told you about her kind heart, I'll tell you about some of the more compassionate, how she's some of the more compassionate people I've ever met in my life. For as long as I can remember, Cindy's been described as the nice one, but she's so much more than that. She spent 2 decades dedicating her life to the country and everyone in it. She had an excellent ASVAB score, yet took a long time to become an officer because of how difficult it was for her to simply tell people what to do without doing the grunt work herself. To this day, you'll never see Cindy ask anyone to do something she wouldn't do herself, except reach the tall shelves in Walmart because she's like 5'3". Whenever Cindy hears about someone facing a hardship, she's the first one to offer assistance, whether that be the local impoverished people asking for money or her close relatives. Cindy will help and listen as best as she can. Cindy may not be a softie when it comes to watching a sad movie, but if anyone opens themselves up to her with their problems, she treats them as if they're her own hardships. So after serving her country for 20 years, she helped raise several children of her siblings due to their own negligence, served as a homemaker and caregiver for several people, served as a nurse for her husband, who suffered several strokes, and now serves to help other veterans get the health care benefits they are entitled to. Right here is a picture of her and her late husband, James. Now that I've told you about her relentlessly giving compassion, I'll tell you about how she has spent her life being hardworking. There hasn't been a time since Cindy was a teenager that she didn't have a job for more than 2 years. When Cindy was young, she had several of odd jobs until she eventually enlisted in the U.S. Air Force after graduating high school. She worked as both a cashier and waitress while in high school alongside the countless chores she had to do because her parents lived in the New York countryside. A quote from my younger brother Maverick is that there's never a time when Cindy won't get up and do whatever she needs to be done because she is not a lazy person. After graduating high school, she moved to Texas to enlist in the U.S. Air Force. Cindy was in the Air Force for a sum total of over 20 years and retired from there in 2000. At the age of 21, Cindy had her first child and was on leave for around a year. Then again, at the age of 23, Cindy gave birth to a boy and was on leave for another year. When Cindy retired from the Air Force in 2000, she had no other choice because of her back pain that she still endures today from working on an aircraft and having an accident at the time. Around the time my brother and I were born, and often in her care due to my parents' own negligence and lack of maturity. When I was no longer in her care as often, she had to deal with her sick husband and take care of him, and once her husband passed, she took care of my brother, yet took on the task of working for the Veterans Office in New Boston, Texas simultaneously. All in all, I feel very lucky to have an aunt as kind, compassionate, and hardworking as Cindy. I cannot imagine my life without her, and she has the greatest positive impact on my life out of everyone I've ever met. I believe Cindy is one of the main reasons I am as conscientious and focused as I am with my schoolwork. Her exemplary example as a hardworking and strong woman today is something I hope to live in my lifetime. And here's a picture from my graduation with Cindy, my grandmother, and